rain don't fall, that's when you know you're gonna go dry. When the rain don't fall, that's when you know you're gonna go dry. And it won't do no good to be crying out loud, babe, or cursing the sky.
Hi, welcome to Thinking Green. I'm Rana. It's been a while since I've been here live. It's been kind of a tough summer to get things together, but I'm really happy today to be joined by Seanice Austin, and we're going to talk about local food. And so welcome, Seanice.
Thank you.
And I just want to note, Seanice is the co-director of Fresh, in charge of administration. And I was looking back, and the first show we did about Fresh New London was in spring of 2005,
Wow.
21 years ago, and we had Arthur Lerner and Laura Burfoot on talking about the beginning of Fresh New London.
Yes.
So the organization's been going for over 2 decades.
Over 2 decades, and Fresh started in 2004. So the first show was Fresh was probably about a year old when that first show came out. So that is awesome. And all the things that they talked about in that show, much of it we are currently doing now. So much of it came to fruition.
Yeah, it was really just starting out then. I remember at the time I was working at doing like once a week meeting Louise Fabrikevich at Ocean Beach, and we were cutting down knotweed, believe it or not. Some things never change.
Yeah.
And when I was bicycling home on Ocean Avenue, Laura and Arthur were behind, well, it's now the Learn building, but it was the synagogue at the time on Ocean Avenue. And I stopped and I thought, do you think you'd like to do a show? And it was pretty brand new. They were planting at that site and also in backyards. So it was a modest beginning, and it's grown a ton. So maybe start talking a little bit about your involvement with Fresh over the past few years.
So, yeah, thank you for having me on again. First of all, I love coming on and talking with you about food justice and food access, growing food. I've been with Fresh now for a little bit over 2 years. I made 2 years in May. I've been a long-time supporter and fan of the organization, being a resident of New London. But the opportunity to join Fresh came about 2 years ago. I was retired at the time, and I saw it as a great way to be active in the community and to be involved with an organization that does great work. So again, I'm the co-director of administration. We work in 3 buckets, and I know we'll get into that a little bit later and what that means. But that's basically the 3 areas that Fresh does its work in. And much of it overlaps with what my career was prior to joining Fresh. I was the director of diversity and inclusion for the UConn School of Business for 23 years, and retired for a couple of years and then joined Fresh.
And one of the things that's really impressed me with Fresh since the beginning is that it is about food access and food justice, but it's never dealt with food in a vacuum at all.
Exactly.
So we do have a slide that shows the 3 buckets, and if you talk to people from Fresh, they'll talk to you about the 3 buckets, and some people might have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
But so the 3 buckets, maybe.
Sure. So the 3 buckets that we work in is the first bucket, and probably our most prominent one, is empowering youth. So Fresh is really focused on developing the next group of leaders, current leaders. We see young people as having the ability and the power to create change. And so working with young people, helping them understand the history of food injustices, not only in the US or in Connecticut, but around the world. We focused on teaching them soft skills like public speaking, problem solving, and engaging them in every aspect of the organization. We actually have junior staff that are on our salary, and they're a part of the team and the work that we do in the decision making that we do with Fresh. Our next bucket is connecting communities. So Fresh, we always say we don't do for community, we do with the community. And so that is where we have all the intersectionalities of food justice. So we talk about things like housing, we talk about transportation, the impact of income and salary on people's ability to access affordable food, because all of those intersectionalities connect. People who have disparities with and insecurity with food often have insecurity in many of those other areas. And then our last bucket is what we're primarily known for, is growing food. So we could talk a little bit more about that, but basically we have 7 growing sites. We believe strongly that we need to reclaim space as a community so that everyone has access to affordable food and access to food.
Well, right now, New London is in the process of updating its plan of conservation and development. By state statute, we have to do it every year and every 10 years.
Every 10 years.
And in next year, in 2027, we have to approve an update. So the process hasn't gotten real far, but it has begun. But 10 years ago, there was a section put in there about urban agriculture. Mm-hmm. I have to admit the city hasn't done a lot to move it forward, but I'm hoping that more repetitions will make people understand it more. When you were talking about making the connections, I couldn't help but think when we had our struggle to keep Riverside Community Garden as a functioning garden, even if the parcel it was on was going to be used in the future for housing. Mm-hmm. So many people saw it as like an either or thing. Right. It's like, oh, if you're, fighting to keep a garden, then you must be against housing access. But it's all together, the basic human needs of shelter and food.
And food, exactly. And it's not a either or, it's an and it's about how do we work together as a community so that they can exist together. Housing does not have, in our estimation, any greater priority over having access to growing food. It's how are we able to do both of those things together?
Well, if people had to make the choice, for the next month, do you want shelter or do you want food? The answer is always going to be, I need both.
I need both. Absolutely, absolutely. And as a community, that's what we need to be talking about. And as you mentioned, with the conservation plan, the plan of conservation and development, we need to not only give lip service to urban agriculture, but how are we creating policies, changing zoning laws to reflect that commitment?
And I think one of the, many years ago, the city council approved people having backyard chickens, and zoning did follow up with regulations which are actually pretty strict, but they don't get enforced unless someone complains. But there are a lot of people living in New London who get fresh eggs from chickens, and we don't really have those regulations in place for urban agriculture, even though the plan of conservation and development does acknowledge that growing food is a big deal. And
quite extensively too, and I believe that New London leaders support it in a real way. I just think that the work hasn't been done yet to have our city ordinances and policies and zoning reflect that commitment.
And I think some things are kind of allowed to happen without being put into code, which maybe is a first step if those things work. But I think about people having raised vegetable beds in their front yards. 10 years ago or 20 years ago, people would say, no, front yards have to be lawns or ornamentals.
Right.
You can't have raised beds. And I remember, having a conversation with a local land use attorney who said something like, you probably don't agree with me, but I don't think people should grow vegetables in their front yard. And I said, you're right, I don't agree.
I don't agree with you.
But I think the trend is that, sure, why not? I mean,
Absolutely.
especially in zones where, the houses have a 25-foot setback. That's a lot of land that people can take advantage of, and especially depending on which side of the house is south-facing, the front yard might be the best place.
And it might be the only place for a lot of people where they can grow food. I know at my house specifically, I only have a front yard. I don't have a backyard at all. So yeah, I think people should have the choice. And there are so many communities around the country where being able to grow food is an amenity that they offer in that community. And the fact that the idea that people would push back against that just doesn't make sense. And I think New London has made great strides in the last 20 years.
I think so too.
You look at programs that Fresh offers, like our snack beds, which are public raised beds that are open to anyone. Most of them are placed right on the sidewalk or near the sidewalk so that they're accessible to anyone who wants to come and harvest and pick from it. We have 43 snack beds around New London, including all of our growing spaces, so at our community gardens, at our urban farm, and then we have standalone snack beds throughout the inner core of the city.
So we have some pictures of some of your properties that you manage. You don't own most of the properties, or any of them maybe. They're in public spaces or community land trust spaces or privately owned.
Right.
So your largest spaces, I'm thinking, are Mercer, where you have community gardens.
Right. So Mercer is our first community garden space, and it really serves as our community hub. So we have a large pavilion there. We have our largest number of community gardeners there, and it really serves as our gathering hub at Mercer. The Cottage Street Urban Farm is located right downtown, right at the fringes of downtown. And it's a beautiful raised, terraced farm where we grow traditionally in the ground. And that's where we grow the bulk of our food at, for both the CSA as well as for our Saturday market. And it is our second year of growing at the urban farm. And so we're excited about how we expand and further develop that space with infrastructure, which requires us to have zoning regulations and changes to that in order to fully develop that parcel of land.
And though the zoning isn't in place, the city has generally been supportive. If you pass it, it's terraced, but the terraces are, many of them, built up with old granite curbing that the city gave to Fresh New London to use for that purpose, because it had just been sitting like a river of curbing in Bates Woods,
correct,
not doing anything. So it isn't that the city hasn't been supportive, but it sort of operates outside the law right now. And in addition to those two larger spots, you also have community gardens on Ledyard Street and in McDonald Park.
Right. I mean, we partner with a private landowner that private individuals can grow food on their land, but the challenge is when you want to scale and add more infrastructure is where we run into the challenges. with where we must have zoning regulations in place in order for that to happen.
Because growing food, if you're doing it at your home, it can be like an accessory use of your property. But if you have a farm, that's the primary use of the property.
Right.
So
Well,
you
Connecticut
have to
has,
acknowledge it.
the state of Connecticut has the Right to Farm bill, which basically means that community members, residents of the state, have a right to grow food and to have a farm on site at their home. But it's when you want to grow large scale is where you run into some issues. So you want to do things like have a commercial greenhouse, or you want to have, create irrigation using water and catchment systems, again, that require more commercial development, is where we run into some challenges.
You know, it occurs to me several years ago, it might be close to 10 years ago, there was a short-lived plan to put an aquaculture facility in Fort Trumbull. And I believe that zone, it's a pretty flexible, maritime zone, does allow some kinds of agriculture because the aquaculture came in under that. I don't know the details of it, and that idea never really took off. But I think there are some precedents that we could use a little bit of. Now, you mentioned the snack beds, and they're scattered everywhere, not, at those, 5 locations, but also all over the place. So maybe we have a picture of a couple of snack beds.
Yes, so snack beds were created by Fresh Young People. They're an innovative and unique way of addressing food access and food insecurity. The snack beds that I'm talking about, and we do have raised beds all over the city, but snack beds are specifically a Fresh created program. So Fresh staff and our young people manage it. So we plant it out, we maintain it, we water it, and maintain the sites. For those, there were 43. But then when we add in, other community members have taken this idea in New London and have expanded it, so much so that I really think that urban agriculture can be a hallmark of what New London is. Like, it can be just as much a part of New London and our brand and who we are as a community than as maritime history or any of our other programs or events that brand the city. I think urban agriculture would be a great way to bring in not only just tourists, but people wanting to come and live in a community that takes environmental as well as agriculture serious and as an important part of who we are as a community.
Yeah, I do think the snack beds have taken off, and I'll talk more later about the community garden at Riverside Park, which has undergone a lot of change over the last couple of years. But it's like it goes without saying that snack beds are part of the plan, though we haven't quite decided what's going to be growing in them. We had a very late start on growing this year because the beds weren't moved into even their approximate spots until about mid-May, and they weren't filled until mid-June. But yeah, and there are other spots around town that there are other snack beds. So
yeah. The city of New London's rec department, Fresh installed 10 raised beds for the community center, the rec center that is there, the new rec center. We also, other communities around other towns and cities have also reached out to Fresh and have asked us to install raised beds for their community. So about 3 years ago, we installed 10 raised beds at Branford Manor so that their residents they wanted to grow food, and they created a community garden right on site. And now we're working with New London Public Housing Authority and
Excellent.
helping them develop a plan so that they can do urban agriculture, continuing expand their urban agriculture at all of their housing development projects right here in New London.
And there is, if you go to the Fresh website, a map of the community snack beds.
Mm-hmm.
And although the Riverside Community Garden isn't one of Fresh's, I noticed we get
It is on there?
mention.
Yes.
It is on there.
Awesome.
So you can get an idea of where to look if you are interested in snack beds. And they're not, a lot of them are not that far from each other. You know, the area, you know, between Broad Street and Bank Street is really the core of the city and has a huge amount of activity in growing food.
And that's by design, because we wanted to have, we wanted community members and residents to have access to all of those spaces. And that also allows us to grow different things at different sites so that you can easily walk from the Broad Street snack beds to the Mercer Street snack beds and down to McDonald Park or over to Cottage Street. And you can visit the snack beds and get a variety of fresh vegetables and some fruit. So we also have berry bushes, some fruit trees, depending on the site that you go to.
And I don't know exactly when it started, but it seems as though over the last several years, you know, we have a very diverse community in New London, and the vegetables are more and more reflecting what residents ate when they lived somewhere that wasn't New London.
Right, and that is by design, once again. One of the things that Fresh, that we do quite often, but at least annually, we survey the community and we ask them, what would you like for us to grow? So having culturally relevant crops growing in the snack beds, as well as what we offer to the community as a part of our Saturday market, comes from what the community has told us they would like for us to grow. So we grow culturally relevant crops like collard greens. We now have okra. We have different herbs from Asia and different plants and just from around the world, based reflective of the people that are here in New London. Hakatoy was the herb that I was thinking about that we now grow.
Yeah, so it's kind of educational in a way. And the reason I chose that one snack bed picture was the, you know, pick the produce, not the plant, that I can just imagine, you know, I guess we all have to be educated in using snack beds, that we don't need to pull out a whole collards plant if we need 6 leaves for what we're cooking.
Right. So it's just a matter of just educating the community members about how to harvest. And we were even talking about our signage and maybe using more simplified language, so that, because people may not know what does harvest mean, know, so just having language that is simplified and people can easily understand. We do videos. Our farmer, Ellen, does Skillshare videos, and we post those to our social media. And we also have them on our website that shows people how to specifically harvest and how to pick certain fruits and vegetables, which people may not know. And so, we try to, educate people in the process.
Well, I think communication is a surprisingly big part of it. And, your beds are painted in ways that have their own message, right?
Right. So we use a color code system. Our snack beds are all painted green. Green means go. So you can go and get anything that you see in those beds. Our community gardener beds are painted red. and red means stop. So those are not public beds. Those are for the families that is growing food for themselves and their family. And then the freshest snack beds are all painted blue. And that is food that we're growing to distribute to the community. Not only on our Saturday market, but we also work very closely with the Community Meal Center here in New London, and every week we bring them a supply of produce that we grow right here in New London. We also have our CSA, which is Community Supported Agriculture, where community members, not just New London, so around the region, supports the work of Fresh, and they buy shares of what will be potentially produced. They buy shares as early as January and February in the hopes that we'll have a good season, and then they come every week to pick up their shares. So,
And I don't know how long ago I first heard of the CSA model, but it is really an important part of supporting farmers in general, that, you know, farmers have to put out a really large initial outlay.
correct.
And they might not have that fund. So people buy the shares. It allows the farmers to plant, and
Correct.
then the people who buy the shares get produce.
They get produce. And the funny thing with farming is you never know what could happen. You know, we are weather dependent because we grow outdoors, and we don't have, another reason why we need to have more of a commercialized greenhouse, because then you can control, have some control over the environment. But when you're supporting Fresh or any farmer with the CSA, again, you're giving them the initial money and resources that they need, the finances that they need in order for us to even begin to grow. I think people forget that farming is a business, and it requires funds in order to get seed and soil and compost.
Yeah, and that's all up front.
That's all up front, and you never know what you will produce at the end. So we're very, very pleased with our CSA supporters. They come every Thursday to pick up their produce, and we're just very, very thankful for them, because they pay market rate. We're slightly less than other CSAs, but they pay market rate for the CSA for us. So again, we appreciate them so much.
Now, since you're talking about the cost of produce, talk a little bit about your Saturday markets.
Yeah, so our Saturday market is, again, something that was that's come out of a lot of conversation with community members, with our young people. We believe that organic, healthy food should be accessible to everyone. You should not have to pay a premium price in order to get quality produce, or organically grown produce that's not filled with pesticides or chemicals. So our farmers market is affordable to everyone. It's a pay what you can model, so donation based. And whether you have $0 or you want to donate $20 or $30, you can walk away with produce, food for you and your family without having to qualify or fill out any paperwork. It's available and open to anyone in the community. So it's every Saturday at our Mercer Street Garden from 10 to 12. And we're pretty consistent with running that from June all the way to the middle of and toward the end of October.
And now you talked about growing things organic for the produce, but also I think for the state of our soil afterwards. I know one of the reasons that the Riverside Garden, we want people to grow organically, is like someone else might have the bed in the future, and they don't want a contaminated bed.
Right, exactly right. And New London, unfortunately, much of the soil is contaminated, which is why we're growing in raised beds. So we don't want to add to that. We're doing things at Fresh to continue to clean and clear the soil. One of our projects that we're doing right now is we're growing sunflowers. And sunflowers, not only are they produce sunflower seeds and people love them as flowers to grow, but sunflowers actually pull contaminants out of the soil. And so we are intentionally planting sunflowers at the Cottage Street farm, and as a way to help clean and maintain the soil. Nature does it all. Like, nature has everything in place. If we look to pay attention and follow what nature offers us, we can have, just a better environment. So yes, sunflowers actually serve a purpose in nature and in the garden as a cleanser. And what we're doing is we're then harvesting the sunflowers early and making them free and available to anyone who wants to have sunflowers on their table at home. They can come and gather the sunflowers. We offer them at our Saturday market. Also at the Cottage Street farm, you can go to the snack bed there and grab you some sunflowers.
Oh yeah, I did not know that. I know when we started the Riverside Garden, the original location of the Riverside Community Garden was chosen largely because Arthur Lerner tested soil in like 40 some sites in New London, and the only two that tested clean were that parcel in Riverside Park and across Adelaide Street, the other side of the entrance to Riverside Park. And when we moved the community garden, the area we moved to actually had to be remediated. At first, we had done some consulting with people who knew about it, and they said, well, to start out by planting mustard, because they said mustard also pulls toxins out. But it turned out it was, everything was just removed about 18 inches down. Yeah. And, if you looked at the holes where they drilled down to put the fence posts, there's a barrier cloth. We still have raised beds. Yes. Because the clean fill isn't contaminated, but it's not fertile either. Right, right. And raised beds are great. We even had raised beds in our clean soil across the street, because they, if people are tending specific beds, it's really nice for them to have very clear delineation of where their area is.
And it makes it easier to maintain. It makes it accessible for some folks if growing is a little bit more raised off of the ground, and it's easier to maintain. Yes. The soil is easier to work with when you're in a raised bed versus growing in ground. But yeah, so sunflowers serve a real purpose in nature.
We'll have to plant some around the edges, of the area where we moved to that was not remediated. So I did want to talk about that garden. We had a grand reopening party last Saturday, and because we wanted people to see it, it had been kind of a struggle for over 2 years, and I know the reporter said it was a very loud, brief period, but actually before the brief loud period, there was a quiet period that we were just trying to get a seat at the table. And sometimes you have to be loud before you get a seat at the table.
Absolutely.
But once that happened and all the community people were sitting down with the ideas that, so this is where we are now. I've dubbed the address as 72 Adelaide Street, and if you look at 72 Adelaide Street on like a Google map, it points right to that plot. Wonderful. I just sort of estimated it based on the addresses of houses across the way, but that had been a parking lot, and I did Yeah, that's what the area looked like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a parking lot. You might not be able to see it in this picture, but in the back there was a grill and a picnic table that was hardly ever used. Riverside Park Conservancy purchased that grill along with some others in the park with like community development block grant money like 12 years ago. And if you looked at that grill compared to other ones in the park, you could see it hadn't been used much. And we had been thinking for years, how do we get people to use that
Are people
park?
using it now?
Now, about six or 7 years ago, the city paved it and made a parking lot. And that wasn't used much either, as you can see.
Right.
Because walking into the park from that location, you're sharing the road with cars. It really isn't a comfortable walk. So we, again, surveyed the gardeners, surveyed the neighborhood, and said, where do you want it? We found about 6 locations in that neighborhood. Inside the park, outside the park. We looked at McKinley Park. We looked at a parcel on Terrace Street. We looked at other spots within Riverside. And this spot was the winner. So we kind of laid out a plan. And this is kind of what we got. And what we're looking for, what's within the fence, what isn't exactly right there, we didn't, the manhole cover, the meter cover is outside the fence, but there isn't a notch. It's really rectangular. But the area inside the fence is pretty, most of them are beds that people rent. The ones nearest the gate, which is near the shed, are shared things like strawberry. There are a couple beds of strawberries. There's a bed of rhubarb. There's a bed of asparagus. So we put things that people might, want to share and not have a bunch of. People can do whatever they want in their own beds, and now you see, this was from our party and the group that was assembled, that they are huddled around the picnic table and the grill. So we're really hoping that the part within the fence, of course, you have to secure what people are tending on their own, but we really are trying to enhance the use of the public part of it.
Right.
And so we're looking for ideas. If anyone has ideas, we do plan to have snack beds. We have blueberries in shared beds inside the fence and outside the fence. We have some fruit trees. We moved 3. 2 of the 3 that we moved survived. 1 did not. So we'll be purchasing more fruit trees. We have blueberries, as I said, in snack beds, shared bed inside and outside. And there's a whole area along the fence and kind of going back that we could make a food forest. And we don't have details, but we're really looking for ideas, because anything that's not inside the fence, we want to have very public facing. It's a part of the city really that has a lot of people who don't have housing or food security, who pass by, because the garden's inside the park but along a main road. It's sort of a perfect place to be accessible.
A lot of berries would be a great choice there. I know we have what is very much like a food forest over at McDonald Park. We have things like elderberries that are growing there, different kinds of blackberries, red berries, raspberries. So people, are always harvesting and picking there. They're easy to pick and eat. I mean, not the elderberries, but other fruit.
Yeah, we do other things with the elderberry. We had a really large elderberry in our old location that we think would be too big to move, but it's got little,
elderberry's easy to propagate.
The roots have formed layers, and
it's fast growing and it's fast spreading. So
Yeah,
you just
so-
get a piece of that and plant it there, and by the next year, it'll fully take over that area.
along that stone wall, we're now fighting the weeds. We want to deal a little better with the mugwort. There's a little bit of knotweed. So whatever we plant there isn't fighting with the weeds all the time. So I think we'll do a lot of planting next spring to really have that area along the wall and slightly up the slope. I did order 3 hazelnut bushes. We'll see how that works. And of the trees we have now, we have a pear tree, we have a peach tree, which actually looks better since we moved it than it ever looked in the old location. I don't know why. The peach leaf curl disappeared. It's got some peaches on it. They're not ripe yet, so I don't know how good they are. But we bought a couple of dwarf apple trees,
Nice.
a prune plum. We'll probably get another pear, and we'll get various berries, because it's just nice to have people come and be able to pick fruit, and using a lot of dwarf trees, you won't need a ladder for it. So so we're trying to do it. I want people to know that we still have beds to rent. And so if people are interested, there's a website, riversidecommunitygarden.org, that has information about the garden guidelines, which I think are fairly similar for most of the gardens, not to use pesticides, and keep it organic, and don't pick from other people's beds, and ways to communicate if you're going on vacation, to let people know to water your bed while you're gone. And so we're still looking for gardeners. And and it's late in the season, so we've kind of made the fee optional for the rest of this year. Our fee has been really, it's $15 for each raised bed. People can have a discount and pay $10 for one raised bed, no questions asked if they're senior, if they're low income. We don't want to know the details. They can decide if that, if the savings means something to them. So we're kind of, we're getting there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful space. And, the situation with Riverside Community Garden is an example of how to reclaim space for public use. And as you
for
mentioned,
growing.
And sometimes you have to go, like you said, be loud and go against the grain in order to fight for the right to have space and have access to it. So thank you all for all of the work you put into that.
And thank you. And, we had tremendous support from the community. And I think the lesson I took away from it is, members of the community really do, if they're given the voice, have a good idea of what they want to see in our city. But, as just community members, we might have the ideas, but we have to work with both the bigger organizations and the city government, because they're the ones who have access to the resources to make it happen. So the transformation of that parking lot was, a tremendous collaboration. Tom Bombria, before he retired, in the community development, he oversaw the remediation of that site.
Yes.
He had experience doing it at the park at home in Hempstead Street, so he was very knowledgeable about that. The City of Public Works, they were understaffed, but they were consultants and paid for landscapers to move the beds, move the sheds. Habitat moved the fence, but ended up having to purchase new posts and repurposing the panels, because when posts are cemented into the ground, you take them out, they get damaged. So they contributed that way. The city hired Torello, the contractor who worked with us, was really great, giving us options at every step of the way. So there were really a lot of groups that shared in the effort.
Yes.
But if you look at the placement of the garden and the design of it, it was community that made those decisions, and then it was all these other pieces that came together that that helped make it happen.
Right, right.
So,
Well,
I
that's
think
the great news, right? The outcome, the final outcome of it required everyone to come together and to work together.
yeah, and it did happen, and it was tiring, but I think everyone who came, even some people who thought, had seen the location we moved to as a parking lot, when, as you could see from the picture, it was not a very attractive space at all. And it's like, you want a garden here? Some of them showed up on Saturday and thought, like, this is like amazing. It's actually better than the old location.
Right.
It has better morning sun because instead of having a tall building next to it, it faces Central Avenue, and the public part of the space is more welcoming. And so, we're collecting ideas. One of the gardeners said maybe we should get a little library and put it in like one of the public spaces. So who knows what it's going to morph into eventually.
Right. More to come.
But we're hoping. So we have like 6 minutes maybe, and I want you to talk about what Fresh is doing coming up so people don't miss out.
Awesome. Yes. So we have a lot of upcoming events that I want to share. So this Thursday, as a part of our Harvesting Community series, we are offering garden sips, and it's a mocktail cocktail party where we'll be sharing how you can use different herbs and flowers to enhance summer beverages. I'll be making tea using anise, and I'll make a lavender tea as well. And we'll be using herbs like mint and chamomile and just different herbs, basil.
Now you do elderflower at home, don't you? Elderflower?
Yes, yes, and I make an elderflower cordial that I do. I won't make it for this event, but it's just a way for people to understand that you can use your garden in a variety of ways. It's not just growing
tomatoes,
vegetables,
for example,
yeah,
which
you
is
can
sort
grow
of
some fun
standard.
things. And I actually started gardening initially by creating a tea garden. That was my initial introduction into gardening. Was I wanted to grow tea. I make my own tea from home. And I started with mints and lemon balm and started growing herbs for tea. Our other event, really quickly, is we're having a medicine making workshop this Saturday, beginning at 12:30 at the Mercer Street Garden. And these are two of our most well-attended summer events. Each year, everyone asks for us to do it again. And the medicine making workshop, if you have never been, please come. We do a lot of, we show how to make tinctures using traditional indigenous practices as a way to maintain your wellness. And then we're new this year is we're showing people how to make hot sauce. So that's a matter of fermenting, some elements of fermenting using peppers, and then we'll be making jams and such. So great event this Saturday. And then check out the Fresh website. We have all of our events posted there. Coming up also in August, we have our youth block party, which is the end of the year celebration for our youth program. Here's all of our website and social media, freshnewlondon.org. We're on Facebook as well as on Instagram, Fresh New London, and then Riverside Community Garden.
So tell me about the youth event. Is that going to be at McDonald Park again?
The youth block party will be at McDonald Park, and we actually work with the city, and we close the street off, and we have a bouncy house, we have food, we have hamburgers and hot dogs, we have a food truck that comes. We do cotton candy and popcorn and ices, and we have a bunch of vendors, organizations. Fiddleheads has been a big part of it.
They do empanadas.
Yeah, they did
last year.
empanadas
They
last
were really
year.
good.
That was delicious. We have a youth talent show. We do a clothing swap. We partner with our friends from the Haitian Hub to collaborate and co-sponsor this event with us. So it's a great time. It's on August 15th from 4:30 to 7:30. And then we do end the event with a water balloon fight
wow.
at the garden. So it's a great way to showcase the McDonald Park Garden and that community as well.
Yeah, and the McDonald Park Garden is amazing. That the history of that was that it was a very troubled park that the city asked Fresh to do something with.
Right, and we did, and we continue to work very hard with that park because, again, it's a shining example of what you can do in an urban space when you have a dilapidated space that is not being cared for, how you can recreate and reimagine that space to benefit the community. So McDonald Park continues to be a shining example of that.
And I think, like our Riverside Garden experience, it started out with talking to the neighbors.
Absolutely. That's how it started. Really going door to door and finding out what the neighbors wanted to have there. They wanted to have a garden. They wanted to have a park. They wanted a gathering space. All of those things are there. Again, it's almost an urban forest.
Yeah,
food
it's
forest
very
there.
green.
It's
and
very green.
It was not very green 10 years ago.
No, it was not. It was an empty lot that was used basically for storage and underutilized spaces. And so Fresh works to reclaim that. And we not only maintain our garden space, we also maintain the park as a whole. While it's not a huge park, it is a lot of work. So that means everything from, raking leaves to cutting grass. And we're probably the only, one of the few nonprofits that, and I know Riverside and probably Calkins too, community garden deals with a lot of the same things where because you're utilizing the space for one purpose, now you're kind of drawn into maintaining the space as a whole, which is a drain on a small organization's resources. It's hard for us to do that. And I share that with Parks and Rec probably on a monthly basis. It's a challenge for Fresh.
Well, I will put in one of my usual pitch that, I'm a homeowner and a taxpayer, but Public Works is really important and is understaffed for maintaining city property.
Absolutely.
And, I know a lot of the Public Works people. I wave to them when they're on the trash trucks. They work really hard, and it's tough work. It's not prestigious or fancy work. But if it doesn't get done, then it does put a strain on a lot of volunteers and a lot of residents.
And Public Works has been really good with, trash collection at the park. And so shout out to our New London Public Works.
Yeah.
They work really hard, and we appreciate them. And when we need a bulk cleanup at the garden, we're able to get the neighborhood van, and we bring our young people and volunteers together, and we do, clean up there at least 2 to 3 times a year. So, it's all about community coming together.
Okay, in the last 30 seconds or so, let people know how they can support Fresh or find out more about you.
Absolutely. So again, Fresh is a nonprofit organization. We're a small organization, and so we're always looking for donations and support. On our website is probably the easiest way to donate. Go to freshnewlondon.org and go to support us, how you can support us. And there's a link where you can make an online donation. One of the areas that we're really looking to increase our our target in is in monthly contributions, and even any small amount goes such a long way. $10 a month, $20 a month, when you add that up over the length of time, over the year, that gives us steady monthly income that we can then do things like pay our lights and pay the water bill and pay the rent. And so we appreciate the community in any small way that you can support. And then come out to our Saturday market. That's another great way to support our organization. It's donation-based. CSA is another revenue-generating program to support the organization.
Well, thank you, Seanice.
Thank you.
And it's nice to be back live. It's been a couple of months for me, and a little longer for you. But thanks a lot, and I'll see you somewhere in some garden somewhere.
Yes, you will. Thank you, Ronna.
So yeah, anytime. So we'll see you next week.
When the rain don't fall, that's when you know you're gonna go dry. When the rain don't